The Witcher Geralt of Rivia is one of the best swordsmen in the north. The White Wolf has spent his entire life surrounded by weapons, the most varied and the most amazing. Steel sword, silver sword, one for the monsters and the other one for the monsters as well. The Witcher often had to fight with something, his bare hands, some horrible stuff, or even a dagger. But there were some swords in his life, the ones that marked his path, from the first blade to the second, the third, the fourth. The moment of receiving each of these swords is vividly marked in the memory of Geralt of Rivia. The sword is a part of the Witcher. It is an extension of his hand. The sword is what makes the Witcher so fearsome for ordinary people. Well, the old Witcher is here. Prepare yourself, because today he's going to tell you about the 9 swords that one by one built the fate of the White Wolf, Geralt of Rivia. Original Witcher swords. A Witcher's first weapons are swords which the young monster slayer receives after passing the trial of the grasses and some grueling training. One silver and one steel. It should be noted that there is a persistent rumor among the common people that the silver sword is for killing monsters and the steel sword is for humans, because the Witcher often has to fight both bloodthirsty monsters and humans. Matter of fact, every Witcher knows that sometimes there is no difference between dangerous creatures and humans. Even Geralt of Rivia himself supported this rumor. The steel sword was meant for humans, as the Witcher told King Foltest during one of their first meetings, all to preserve the image, so that people would fear the White Wolf and think twice before approaching him. But really, both of the Witcher's swords are designed to fight monsters. There's an incredible variety of horrible creatures, a bunch of different species and subspecies, but they all fall into 2 categories. Some die from wounds inflicted by sharp steel, and others die from wounds inflicted by equally sharp silver. Hence, there are 2 swords. There was also a rumor that Witcher swords could not be forged from ordinary steel. It was said that each monster slayer's blade was made from a special ore of stones that fell from the starry sky to the sinful earth. Scientists call them meteorites. And the rumors among the common people are so persistent that even the best minds sometimes believe them. Common knowledge claims that swords used by Witchers have magical properties, said the poet, passing over the fabrications about sexual impotence. There must be some truth in it. Your swords aren't ordinary. Would you like to comment? Geralt reined in his mare, bored by the protracted stay in the stables. Roach's urge to gallop was growing. Yes, I would. Our swords aren't ordinary swords. It is claimed that the magical power of your Witcher weaponry, fatal to the monsters you fight, resides in the steel from which they are forged, said Dandelion, pretending not to hear the mockery. From the very metal, that is the ores found in meteorites falling from the sky. How so? Meteorites aren't magical. After all, they're a natural phenomenon, accounted for by science. Where's that magic to come from? Geralt did not answer this question immediately, but only when he was alone with Dandelion. The Witcher smiled and called all the stories fiction, but asked that the bard not tell the truth to anyone. After all, the stories about meteorite swords also created fear and awe among people, which means that no one from the peasant to a goddamn mutant will not attack just like that, and orders for monsters would more likely to be entrusted to a supernatural creature. Steel smelted from a meteorite, and also blades forged from such steel, contains a great deal of such elements. It's magical. The entire sword is magical. Quod erat demonstrandum. Do you understand? Certainly. So forget it, because it's poppycock. What? Poppycock. Fabrication. You don't find meteorites under every bush. More than half the swords used by Witchers were made from steel from magnetic ores. I used them myself. They're as good as the ones that fell from the sky when it comes to the siderites penetrating the elements. There is absolutely no difference. But keep it to yourself, Dandelion, please. Don't tell anyone. What? I'm to stay silent? You can't demand that. What's the point of knowing something if you can't show off the knowledge? Please. I prefer to be thought of as a supernatural armed with a supernatural weapon. They hire me to be that and pay me to be that. Normality, meanwhile, is the same as banality, and banality is cheap. So I ask you to keep your trap shut. Promise? Have it your way. I promise. The whole truth that Witcher swords are mostly ordinary swords only came to light after Dandelion's work entitled Half a Century of Poetry became widely known. In fact, the White Wolf had obtained his swords in Kaer Morhen. The Witcher never wanted to think of a better weapon, because these swords seemed to be perfect for him. They were perfectly balanced and forged especially for Geralt. They were a true extension of the Witcher's hand in battle. The steel sword was made in Mahakam itself, a beautiful piece of work. the lizard skin scabbard, the perfect balance between the weight of the blade and the handguard, the incredible sharpness, and most importantly, the guardian runes that ran the length of the sword. The dwarves had done their job perfectly. Geralt's steel sword could even absorb the power of a spell aimed at the wielder and protect him in a fight against a less powerful sorcerer or a magical creature. The silver sword was identical in size, weight, and shape to the steel one. Of course, it was not 100% silver, so it was only formally called silver. After all, silver is a soft metal that cannot be sharpened good enough. Therefore, the blade was reinforced with an alloy of steel and silver, and only the core of the sword remained completely silver. The edge of the sword remained sharp only because of the large amount of steel, and along the entire length of the sword were runes that formed one of the most famous mottos of the Witchers. My brilliance cuts the gloom, my light dispels the darkness. It is the original principle of all witchcraft as a profession, to bring light into the dark, monster-filled world of men. It was with these two swords that the White Wolf first hit the road. He had studied, spilled blood, killed bloodthirsty creatures. He had grown accustomed to his blades, which had saved his life more than once. He treasured them above all other inanimate things, but an evil fate forced the Witcher to lose his weapons. The Swords of Viroledo. For the first time, Geralt willingly parted with his swords more than 20 years after he received them. In the city of Kerak, the Witcher was captured and imprisoned by order of the local ruler. While the White Wolf was under guard, his favorite swords were stolen, leaving the monster slayer in a very bad mood. When Geralt was released on bail, he had only one wish: to find his swords, or better yet, find the men who took them from him and teach him a lesson. But where to look? And above all, how to solve all the problems that had already appeared in Kerak? Those were the questions Geralt was looking for an answer to for a very long time. And while he was busy with the usual business of killing monsters, seducing the sorceress, this time the red-haired Leonade, nicknamed Corhel, and punching the villains of Kerak, his favorite sword stayed far away from him. All this time Geralt needed a weapon, and he got one: the Swords of Viroledo, or rather the Sword of Viroledo. But first things first. On his search for a temporary weapon, Geralt was first helped by his good friend Dandelion. He found a real sword of Viroledo for the Witcher, with a hilt made of lizard skin and a brand in the shape of a sun with 16 rays. The blade was certainly not a witch's blade, but it was very good, and the price was relatively low. And that was strange. Geralt suspected something wrong, but he believed the satisfied Dandelion, except that the blade almost broke in half in the first fight. Pfft, a forgery. Of course, the bard wouldn't be himself if he hadn't gotten involved in a dark story by believing the wrong people. The Witcher was left without weapons and money, but soon he was rescued. In his adventures, the White Wolf was lucky enough to meet not only villains but also quite good people. While investigating strange and bloody events near the Rysberg Castle, this castle was a stronghold of sorcerers, Geralt met a sorcerer named Elgernon Gwyncamp, or simply Panetti. This same Panetti was one of the few who wanted to stop the bloodshed in the region, and for Panetti's aspirations, he was disliked by the powers that be in the city. I will not tell you about all his adventures with Geralt. Only one fact is worth mentioning regarding today's topic. In the end, Panetti managed to leave Rysberg in good health. But at his last meeting with Geralt, the sorcerer expressed his hope that the Witcher would understand the horrors that had happened. As a sign of his faith and intentions, Panetti gave the Witcher another sword from Viroledo, the same one Dandelion had bought, with a hilt of lizard skin and a sun with 16 rays. But this sword will not be broken even by heavy blows. An original piece of work. With this blade, Geralt would face many dangerous enemies, but even such a good sword cannot replace the true witch's weapons. At the very end of his adventures near Rysberg, Geralt was confronted with catastrophes. The city of Kerak was drowned in a huge tsunami. In the ensuing chaos, the Witcher lost the sword Panetti had given him. The White Wolf left the flooded city almost unarmed. The Sword from Brokilon. An unarmed Witcher. Pfft, have you ever heard of such a thing? And neither did Geralt. But he couldn't find the weapon fast either. But the weapon found the White Wolf though. For the first time in a long time, the Witcher was really lucky. In the end, Geralt was found by a young Dwimviandra sorceress that miraculously returned his original witch's blades to the White Wolf. It turned out that the stolen swords ended up at the auction of the Banker Vivaldi, where they were bought by none other than the sorceress Yennefer of Vengerberg, the one who dresses only in black and white. She recognized the blades immediately when she saw them. She bought the swords, and sent them directly to Geralt via Arethusa's young apprentice. It had been a long time since the Witcher had spoken to Yennefer, and what had happened had troubled him. But as usual, he did not have to think long about what had happened. He had an incredible adventure ahead of him. Child of Destiny, Yennefer, war, death, hunt, rebirth, and a new blade. Geralt received his sword in one of the most unexpected places, in the Grove of the Dryads of Brokilon. A whole series of events had preceded this. The White Wolf had found his destiny, the girl Ciri, and then he lost her. Himself and Yennefer had been guests at the banquet of the Chapter of Wizards on the Isle of Thanet. That fateful night, there had been a riot. Some wizards attacked each other. The forces of Nilfgaard intervened. A true magical hell began, and in that hell was Ciri. Yennefer brought her there. Geralt wanted to save the girl, but far more powerful forces were interested in the Child of Destiny. One of the most powerful wizards on the continent, named Vilgefortz, wanted to take Ciri for himself. He caught up with the Witcher and the girl and challenged the White Wolf to a duel. You might think he was suicidal. Is there anyone who can match a Witcher, a true killing machine in terms of weaponry? Turns out he could. Vilgefortz defeated Geralt using an iron staff. He struck with such force that the White Wolf miraculously stayed alive. By the way, be sure to check out the video about this legendary magician. The link will be in the upper right corner and in the description below. He awoke in the forest of Brokilon. He was taken to the Dryads by the sorceress Triss Merigold, who was in love with him. His old blades, which had served him for decades, remained there in the ruins of Thanet. The steel sword was broken by Vilgefortz. Destiny itself gave Geralt a new weapon. The Witcher found it in Brokilon, in the catacombs of the old fortress Crag N. An ancient sword, the steel of the blade forged in Mahakam and the hilt carved by the elves. It was like a symbol of fighting to the end. This was the sword Geralt took with him. When the Dryads healed the monster slayer from the wounds inflicted by Vilgefortz, he went on to search for Ciri and armed himself with his old Brokilon blade. Mahakam Rune Sihil. The ancient sword helped Geralt of Rivia many times, but it did not stay with him until the end. The White Wolf lost the blade of Brokilon on his journey when he and his companions were captured by the Cinthrian Marshal Visigurd. Geralt didn't really regret this loss. He was happy to have survived. Besides, fate had given him a much better weapon. Well, not quite fate, but his good friend Zoltan Kevei. Seeing that the White Wolf was left without a weapon, Zoltan the dwarf took his precious Sihil, which he always carried on his shoulder, and simply gave it to the Witcher. Zoltan knew the White Wolf's purpose, knew his noble intentions, and so he gave his beautiful blade to Geralt. The Mahakam Rune Sihil was a first-class weapon, forged by the finest dwarven smiths for the finest dwarven warriors, perfectly balanced and sharp enough to shave with, covered with runes that protected the wielder from even the most powerful magic, forged using the finest techniques. Its soft, multi-layered core was forged with hard steel that only dwarves could sharpen with perfect technique, so that the sword could cut through a tossed cambric handkerchief, a blade that even a king would not be ashamed to wield, and that blade stayed with him to the end. It was the sword that slew the mighty Vilgefortz. It was the sword that cut the Witcher's path to his destiny, a girl named Ciri. This is the only one of the blades in the stop that the White Wolf gave up on his own. At the end of the journey, Geralt gave it back to his old friend Zoltan, and then the Witcher's journey ended. Rusty Sword. But it only ended in the pages of the books, because the CD Projekt Red studio revived the White Wolf force and continued his story. Of course, to list all the blades that Geralt of Rivia could wield in the trilogy of video games, we will need more than an hour of time, much more. Therefore, we will go the logical way, highlight the most iconic swords, not the ones the Witcher picked up from the corpses of random mobs or antagonists, but those given to the White Wolf for truly important deeds. Other characters recognize the deeds of Geralt of Rivia, and they give him the best swords, the ones he deserves, the ones that are essential for the plot of the video games, which are justified by the story itself. I could go straight to the legendary swords, but I'll start with the most important one, the first blade that the White Wolf raises in his video game journey. Yes, such a serious list had been raised with the common rusty sword. It is this rusty sword that the player who bought and played the first Witcher game in 2007 wields for the first time as Geralt of Rivia in a computer game. The rusty sword is stuck in a scarecrow in Kaer Morhen, and when the Witcher's fortress is attacked by the Salamander gang, the game forces the player to take the sword and use it to fend off the vicious attacks of the aggressive enemies. The rusty sword is quite common. Geralt and the player both would try to switch this weapon for a more reliable one. But it's this very first rusty sword that remains iconic. After all, a new story of Geralt of Rivia begins with it. Aerondight. Next on this list, of course, should be Aerondight, a sword given to the Witcher personally by the ancient Lady of the Lake. It symbolizes that the Witcher is pure of heart and worthy to wield it. The beautiful blade is a true work of art. It's been at the bottom for centuries, waiting for someone worthy to wield it. And now that time has come. A hero has been found, Geralt of Rivia. During his travels, White Wolf came across a village called Murky Waters. But it wasn't the people living there that caught his attention. It was an ancient creature, the Lady of the Lake. Among all the travelers, she chose Geralt. She chose him to fight a mighty evil. An ancient monster, Dagon, terrorized the area, terrible and ruthless. He drove the people insane, but he also organized a real war between the inhabitants of Murky Waters and his followers, warriors of the underwater world, a war in which there can be no winners. Geralt of Rivia has to listen to the Lady of the Lake. He must accept her request and deal with Dagon. After all, he's a Witcher, and Witchers kill monsters, even the oldest and the strongest. As the chosen warrior to end the conflict, Geralt must defeat Dagon, and then the Lady of the Lake will give him many gifts. Each of these gifts will be pleasant, but Aerondight will remain in his memory for many years as a symbol of the importance of the Witcher. In the second part of the Witcher game saga, Geralt loses Aerondight right at the beginning, when he plunges his sword into the mouth of the dragon Scoia'tael during the attack on Lavalad Castle. At least, this seems most likely, because the sword is carried over with the save from the first game, and then simply disappears from the trilogy after the battle with the dragon, until the Blood and Wine DLC for the third game. After a few years, the Witcher will be able to find it again, this time in Toussaint at Lac-Slavie. There will be a hermit sitting there. Human or not, it doesn't matter. The hermit's only mission is to preserve and guard Aerondight, to preserve the sword until its true owner from the day of the victory over Dagon comes to claim it, a Witcher named Geralt of Rivia. The hermit will ask Geralt to prove once again that he possesses the virtues of chivalry, valor, honor, wisdom, compassion, and generosity. But for the White Wolf, this is more of a formality. He is the owner of Aerondight. Diablo. The next blade is a symbol of witchcraft, in which Geralt reached incredible heights. Once the Witcher lifted the curse from the daughter of King Foltest, Princess Ada. A dozen years later, he is forced to repeat this heroic deed. The cursed princess once again began to turn into a Striga, but the witchcraft does not allow him to turn back or to decline the accepted order. When Geralt works with Ada again, Foltest's advisor Velerat gives the White Wolf a special reward, a blade called Diablo. This scimitar from Zerrikania had been tempered with dragon fire. It is not even worth describing, because its price is unbelievably high, but for Geralt it's more of a symbol, a gift for the finished work of a Witcher, a sign of witchcraft, not to kill the cursed, but to heal them if you can. That's the rule of a real Witcher. Naved Shade. No less important to the Witcher is the blade called Naved Shade, a gift given to Geralt of Rivia by Yorweth, the commander of Scoia'tael. Interestingly though, Geralt can only get the sword if he chooses to trust the main enemy of Yorweth, the leader of a Temeria spy squad named Roshei, a symbol of perfect balance, a symbol of neutrality, because even if Geralt supports Roshei, he never forgets to remain what he was made to be, a Witcher. In political games, Geralt doesn't always support someone. He knows his own. He stands his ground and will not shed blood in vain. He won't hate a whole race because of prejudices or carry out ruthless orders to kill humans, dwarves, or elves. He is the epitome of neutrality, and even when he takes sides, he always has a good reason. To support this thesis, Geralt can help Yorweth when he's surrounded by enemies. Even if you consider that he himself is technically Yorweth's enemy, the leader of the Scoia'tael respects such a firm attitude. He respects Geralt's lack of prejudice, and so he gives the Witcher his sword, a symbol for the true character and the true way of the White Wolf. Iris. Finally, I'm going to finish this list, and I'll end it with the last truly iconic blade of Geralt of Rivia, because after the events of Ciri, when the Witcher found his destiny, when he defeated the king of the Wild Hunt, when Ciri went to battle the White Frost Cataclysm, a battle fought on a plane beyond the reach of mortals, even after all this trouble, the story of the White Wolf is not over. and the Witcher would also face an evil of a truly divine order, Master Mirror, a being named Gaunther, and also a man named Olgierd von Everec, neither living nor dead. Olgierd, he had once shown weakness. Instead of solving his own problems, von Everec turned to a real demon lord to be specific, the mighty Gaunther, and made a deal with him. Gaunther had to fulfill Olgierd's wishes, and in return he offered his soul. Little did the man know that he would not be able to outsmart the immortal demon. Gaunther gave Olgierd what he asked for, but not what he wanted. Olgierd wanted to be immortal, he wanted never to suffer, and Gaunther gave it to him. But Olgierd's heart turned to stone, and the debt had to be paid. The Witcher Geralt of Rivia found himself in an incredible adventure thanks to these two characters. He went through many trials, and in the end he had to make a choice. Which side to take, who to choose, Gaunther or Olgierd von Everec, to side with the demon or the emotionless scumbag who summoned the demon. Oh, the choices. But there was only one path. The White Wolf decided to take pity on Olgierd. Then he will have to defeat a powerful evil, an archdemon that can even control time. After that, Geralt can bring life back into the heart of von Everec to make him feel again and break his curse. A great deed, no doubt. And as a reward, Olgierd doesn't hold back anything, not even the ancient ancestral sword of the von Everecs, which has been handed down from father to son for many generations. Olgierd's true pride. And the moment when he is ready to give up his blade, it is certainly iconic. The sword is called Iris, in honor of Olgierd's beloved wife, and the Witcher Geralt of Rivia can wield the sword with dignity from this moment until the end of his days. He has defeated the greatest evil of all. He brought life to a heart of stone, performed amazing feats, and never once strayed from his own code. An iconic weapon of great significance and received in gratitude from a truly purified heart. Well, for us, dear friends and viewers, the best thanks will be a like, a subscription to this channel, and a comment about other swords you think should be in this top. Stay active in the comments below, write about what the author might have gotten wrong, or where there was unreliable information, if there was. See you guys soon, when the old Witcher speaks once again.